Here I thought I could rest, play some video games, maybe catch on some sleep, but of course the devils in the gaming industry are working overtime, so here I am again with another video. Well, turns out the people who made the game Subnautica and its sequel Subnautica 2 might have just been robbed of their lives' works from under their nose, and the people who did it were their own publishers. Yep, let's get into this. So, Subnautica is made by the studio Unknown Worlds Entertainment, which was founded by three guys. Charlie Cleveland, that's this guy on screen here, Max McGuire, that's this guy here, and Ted Gill, that's this guy on screen too. Then Unknown Worlds Entertainment would be bought by Krafton in 2021. And Krafton, in case you don't know, is a very big Chinese company that owns and operates many games as you're seeing on screen here. They have quite a bit under their belt, from PlayerUnknown to Callisto Protocol, and of course the Subnautica franchise and more. Then there's this article from the bangingbeats.com which is titled, Subnautica 2 Delayed, Krafton Blasts Leads for Abandoning Responsibilities. As seen here, Krafton, which owns Subnautica and the development studio now, claims that the founders of Unknown Worlds were not doing their jobs according to them, but instead were pursuing personal ventures, as they put it, instead of finishing the game on time. And that this neglection led to what Krafton is now claiming as a major delay for the release of Subnautica 2. Which, if you don't know, was originally set to release this fall 2025. However, now Krafton is claiming the game will now officially launch sometime in 2026 instead. As you can see here on screen from Krafton's official statement, they act as if they're thrilled about the future of Subnautica, and how they allocated hundreds of millions of dollars in investments into the development of Subnautica 2. These payments also included bonuses for the founders and then some. Krafton would also say this in their statement. Unfortunately, the former leadership failed to fulfill the responsibilities assigned to them. The early access launch of Subnautica 2, initially set for early 2024, has been significantly postponed. We made several requests to Charlie and Max to assume their roles as game director and technical director, which they declined. Notably, after Moonbreaker's failure, we asked Charlie to dedicate himself to Subnautica 2. Instead, he opted to focus on his personal film project. They continue with, we are profoundly disappointed by the former leadership's behavior and feel deeply betrayed by their failure to uphold the trust of our fans. Krafton then continues, we decided to change the executive leadership to maintain our commitment to delivering the best gaming experience possible. Subnautica 2 is being developed by a devoted core team who share a true passion, accountability, and commitment to the game. We deeply value their expertise and creativity and will continue to offer our full and unwavering support, allowing them to focus entirely on creating the exceptional game you deserve. So, as you can see, the founders and creators of Subnautica were not only betrayed by Krafton, who bought them a few years back, but they have been completely removed from the project entirely now. However, this isn't even the tip of how bad this falling out has become, because it turns out Krafton had massive bonuses lined up for the founders of Subnautica 2 if the game was ready to release in 2025 as originally planned. Yet according to Krafton, the game was simply not ready for a 2025 release schedule, hence why it's now coming in 26. However, Charlie Cleveland, one of the founders of Unknown Worlds that got kicked, had words to say about this, and according to him, this entire story that they're pushing, it's completely false. Charlie Cleveland also posted his lengthy response on Twitter, and it's very, very long, so I won't read all of it, because honestly, parts of it are just about how he never thought video games could be a viable job and all of that stuff. He goes on about how hard Subnautica was to make, how Below Zero didn't do as well as they would hope, and how Charlie and the other founders have came together to ensure that Subnautica 2 was going to be the best that it could be. But there is this one part where he then says this, so you can see why for Max, Ted, and myself, the Unknown Worlds team, and for our community, the events of this week have been quite a shock. We know that the game is ready for early access release, and we know you're ready to play it. And while we thought this was going to be our decision to make, at least for now, that decision is in Krafton's hands. And after all these years, to find that I am no longer able to work at the company I started stings. So, Charlie Cleveland confirms that not only are he and the other founders completely locked out of the development studio that they founded and the game franchise that they created by their publishers, but that in Charlie's words, the game is actually ready for early release already. Which means, according to what Charlie anyways is saying, that what Krafton was saying earlier that, oh, we can't release Subnautica 2 at early access like intended in 2025. Because it's simply not ready are again a total fabrication, according to the founders. Charlie Cleveland would end his message with this, and I also want you to know that this is not where the story ends, and yeah, he wasn't kidding about that part. Because it turns out, the big reason why Krafton didn't want this game to come out in 2025 was, well, for a really big reason. And by big, I mean a specific $250 million reason, because it turns out that originally, Charlie, Max, and Tim had a legal clause that they would receive royalties amounting to $250 million worth of payments that would be given to the creators following the early access of Subnautica 2 if, and this is key, if they were able to hit that 2025 release date. Which, according to Charlie, as you saw, they were going to be able to hit that no problem, but Krafton is saying otherwise. So, yeah, you can probably see where I'm going with this, I'm sure. To put it simply, the accusation here is that Krafton is lying out of their teeth not only to take control of Subnautica and Unknown Worlds, but also, of course, to not pay out that $250 million bonus to the creators instead and just keep it for themselves. This comes from GameDeveloper.com. Reports Krafton allegedly delays Subnautica 2 to avoid paying devs $250 million bonus. Jesus, dude. Then Jason Schreier of Bloomberg spoke to the creators of Subnautica, and they told him via his article, which GameDeveloper.com here is referencing, that Krafton is doing all of this to simply not pay these guys the money that they're clearly owed, and that they're lying about the game not being ready. In a joint statement from Jason Schreier's article, the founder said this: "Nothing is changing in terms of the direction of the game or the team behind it. We are confident in what we've created. We just want to give you a little bit more content for our first early access release." And essentially, Krafton took this, for example, and used it as ammunition to claim that Subnautica 2 would not be ready for release in 2025, among other things, to then justify themselves in firing and removing the original creators. Oh yeah, but it gets worse, as it says here. According to sources who spoke to Bloomberg under anonymity, publisher Krafton reportedly pushed out Unknown Worlds leadership, which impacted the original release window. You gotta be kidding me. So Krafton allegedly, according to these sources, pushed out the founders to sabotage the project on purpose, because it was going to meet its deadline, and yeah, they didn't want that, so that they could then delay it as an excuse to just veto that contract and keep the $250 million to themselves instead, is what I'm getting from all of this. It's like, you think you know Scummy, you know, but then can you imagine a company doing this like to you in like some scenario if you were owed that amount of money? You would all become the Punisher, dude, like straight up skull shirt and everything, guns blazing. I would honestly become the Joker incarnate if someone bamboozled me out of 250 million schmeckles. You know how many steaks I could buy with $250 million? I'm not actually sure, to be honest, but it would be a lot, let me tell you. But somehow it gets worse, because let me read you this next part, which says, at the same time, the studio was reportedly due a $250 million bonus tied to revenue targets. Bloomberg reporter Jason Schreier claimed via Blue Sky that he received additional documentation on the reported earnout, saying that 10% of that, or up to $25 million, was due to be paid to about 40 Unknown Worlds staff, each receiving various amounts and mostly six figures. Leadership reportedly said it's also giving parts of the bonus to other employees. So, this has now entered the nuclear waters. I think we can all agree on that one. So now not only were the founders screwed, but large parts of Unknown Worlds staff were also being screwed over out of six-figure payout guys as well. Oh my god. And me, of course, being the cynical freak that I'm the only other reason I could see this happening, honestly, would be to hopefully bring this soul-crushing news to these developers who were promised these payouts in hopes, I'm guessing anyway, to cause them to leave the studio behind on their own volition and free will. And then if that were to happen, they would likely then be vetoed out of the payments as well, meaning that Krafton and their executives would keep the bonuses meant for Subnautica's developers for themselves instead, while doing literally none of the work on the game. Yeah, I mean, it is a genius like 4D chess move on Krafton's part. However, there's no way that we can look at all of this and immediately think that, yeah, this is the scummiest thing I've heard in a couple of days at least, which honestly kind of tells you how cooked gaming is as an industry right now, if this doesn't even really surprise me that much. And no, it's not because I don't feel for the developers, I do. It's just because I'm kind of desensitized to the whole corporate malarkey of these executive types at this point, if I'm being honest, because I fully expect them to just ruin the lives of developers and creators for the sole purpose of just filling their pockets with more money instead. I mean, like, yeah, of course they're going to do that. They're people in suits. Also, following this whole thing happening, Krafton has already replaced the CEO position of Unknown Worlds with their own yes man, that being Steve Papatusis? I don't know how to say his last name. I'm just going to call him Steve if that's okay. But anyway, Steve is also the CEO of Striking Distance. That's the studio that made the failed game, The Callisto Protocol. So anyway, this Steve guy, no, not that Steve guy, which is this dude on screen you're seeing, is now the yes man lapdog of Krafton and is, yes, overseeing Subnautica in order to ensure that those bonuses do not get into the hands of their developers nor their creators. My God. However, yikes, there's even more, because according to an audio recording of a meeting recently, as seen here, which was reviewed by Bloomberg, Steve P. Whatever told employees that Krafton didn't believe that Subnautica 2 was ready to be released this year and that the delay was to add more content to it. When asked whether the delay was decided so the publisher could avoid paying the $250 million bonus, Steve Whatever said he was not familiar with the specifics of the contract. He added that the details of the acquisition were beyond his current understanding at the moment, and that he was never told the delay was meant specifically to impact any earnout or anything like that. That dude is totally there's no way, dude. No way, dude. There is no way he doesn't know what's going on. No, I refuse to believe this for even a second. This guy is playing us like a damn fiddle, dude. He's acting like Simple Jack on purpose right now. You don't just up and become the CEO of an entire multi-million-dollar company just randomly one day when you wake up, without being told the specific entire situation as to why you have to take that job in the first place, the game plan that is in place as well, and the reason why you're just there. Like, you don't just suddenly go, hey, I'm the CEO of a company. Why is that? We can't tell you. Come on, dude. That is not something that just happens out of the blue. And this Steve guy acting like he doesn't have access to the internet to simply just type in the company that he's the CEO for now and then type the word news after that and then hitting enter, and then he would be bombarded with articles telling me that this guy, he not only knows what's going on, but I would bet the hair on my gooch that he's going to get a payout from that alarming amount of money by also allowing this hostile takeover to happen. I would bet money on that, bro. There's no way that he's going to play stupid like this. I'm actually mad at this. They actually can't be serious. How do your employees that you preside over know this, but you just magically don't? Complete BS and a total lie. Dude, I thought companies were scummy, but wow, man. Wow. This is insane. This then brings us to, well, pretty much today. So here's an article from IGN, which reads, Ousted Subnautica 2 leadership files lawsuit against parent company Krafton as row over $250 million bonus gets personal. You all deserve the full story. You're damn right we do. So what the hell is even going on right now with this? I hear you not asking. As seen here, Krafton claims that they paid around $500 million for Unknown Worlds and Subnautica a few years ago, and that $250 million of that was meant to be allocated to the founders by upwards of 90%. With the remaining 10%, that being the $25 million as Bloomberg said originally, going to the rest of the staff that was making the game. But Krafton is claiming that one of the major reasons for the delay is that the playtests that they received for Subnautica were subpar, and that they were informed by the fake reviews that they usually do before games come out. If you don't know, before games come out, they usually get reviewed by like playtesters, and then they give like a rough score out of 10, like, I give this a 6, I give this a 7, whatever. They basically do this to see if like the game they made would technically get reviewed well by actual reviewers when they actually send the codes out. So according to them, they like pretty much did this behind the scenes. Whatever reviews they were getting from these people were really bad. Again, this is Krafton saying this. They could definitely be lying, but anyway, the point was that Subnautica 2, according to Krafton, was not ready for release in 2025 because of this. But of course, we're not stupid, and it suspiciously, of course, happens following this proposed $250 million deal, dude. And the fact that the founders are now gone now, yeah, that adds salt to the wound, all right. Then Charlie Cleveland went to the Subnautica Reddit and laid out the plans that he, alongside the other two founders, we're going to do with this lawsuit. I'll just read you the whole thing. So here we go. It says, "Hello, everyone. Continues to be an explosive and surreal time for the Subnautica team and community. None of this is what we wanted, but we truly appreciate the amazing support we've gotten from everyone. It means a lot to us, especially now. As I wrote last week, we know in our souls that the game is ready for early access. That's just how we roll. And we'd like nothing more than for you to play it. Game devs live for this, but it's not currently under our control. We've now filed a lawsuit against Krafton. The details should eventually become at least mostly public. You all deserve the full story. Suing a multi-billion-dollar company in a painful, public, and possibly protracted way was certainly not on my bucket list. But this needs to be made right. Subnautica has been my life's work, and I would never willingly abandon it or the amazing team that has poured their hearts into it. As for the earnout, the idea that Max, Ted, and I wanted to keep it all for ourselves is totally untrue. I'm in this industry because I love it, not for riches. Historically, we've always shared our profits with the team and did the same when we sold the studio. You can be damn sure we'll continue with the earnout bonus as well. They deserved it for all their incredible work trying to get this great game into your hands. Stay tuned." So, as you see, they're gonna sue Krafton now for likely way more than that original $250 million payout, because if what Charlie Cleveland claims is true, Krafton is F-U-C-K-E-D, my friends, and that's putting it lightly. Because it turns out that in these builds, the game was indeed ready for early access to hit its sales targets, which if Krafton denies, and if they also try to alter or change the content in the meantime from the builds that they have, to, make it seem like the game is suddenly not ready to strengthen their position for this lawsuit, that then tampers evidence and can also lead to even further monetary losses for Krafton if they do that. So in the end, out of sheer greed and honestly stupidity, Krafton has quite literally turned what could have been a beneficial partnership into a sinking time bomb that will explode in their faces. I just don't see how Krafton can win this. Especially since I'm sure Charlie, Max, and Tim have their receipts to claim otherwise, obviously. However, it doesn't end there, since the Subnautica fanbase has also now rallied behind its founders as well. As seen here from Reddit, it's not going well in this big post on the Subnautica Reddit stating, but here's what it says. "Do not buy Subnautica 2. The publisher Krafton has fired all 3 original founders of Unknown Worlds and delayed the game to 2026. So that developers wouldn't receive $250 million in bonuses. Do not support these shady business practices. Do not buy Subnautica 2. Yep, as you can see, the fans have the backs of the developers and founders over Krafton, and this now means if and when Subnautica 2 releases, it will absolutely be met with a massive boycott that will damage the reputation, not really of Subnautica or its devs, honestly. But all of this bad stuff will just be going on Krafton specifically as a publisher that people will probably never want to support again in the future. Because if they're willing to do this to Subnautica, and let's say, they get away with it, what happens in the future? Why would you ever want to buy anything that they make or sell to you as a company? Why would any other developer or founder of some other game that's, the next big thing or whatever, want to be bought or honestly work with this company now? Knowing that at any moment they could just swindle you, lie, remove you, and then steal all of your riches for themselves through layers of shady paperwork. As this one user said on Reddit, I think this is a good place to end it. F Krafton, that's all that needs to be said. They burned any chance of this survivor spending any money on Subnautica again. But what do you think about all of this? Will you still be buying Subnautica 2? Do you think Krafton was justified in removing the founders? What do you think happens in the future? Is the studio and game just cooked now? Will the founders find their way back in somehow? And even if they do, would they then find a way to sever the acquisition because of this betrayal? I doubt it, but there's so many questions here that need to be answered. But as it stands currently, what Krafton did here from a PR business standpoint is going to make nobody want to buy or play their games anymore. And if that leads to a massive boycott, which it's already happening with Subnautica clearly, we've only just begun to see what's going on here, guys. But thank you for watching. Let me know what you think as always. Subscribe to keep up to date. I'll keep you guys in touch with everything like I always do, and I'll see you next time.